I'm going to be brutally honest with y'all. No matter what moves the Warriors make, I think this season is already lost because let's just look at the Western Conference real quick. Since we all know it's loaded, but let's take an actual deep look into it. So here's the updated Western Conference as of January 11th. Obviously, the 1 through 4 teams are way better than the Warriors. The Warriors are not going to pass them this year. Those 4 teams have been really good. Then you got the Kings, Pelicans, and Mavericks. Those 3 teams are better than the Warriors, and they're probably going to make some moves to keep them there. So that's 7 teams that are definitively better than the Warriors, even after the Warriors make moves. Then you have the Suns and Lakers. Suns and Lakers will be better than the Warriors, even if they make moves. The Rockets and Jazz. These 2 teams, very young teams that have they get really streaky. The Utah Jazz are 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Houston Rockets are almost unbeatable at home, unless you're a really, really good team. The Warriors are 500 at home and 3 games below 500 on the road. And then you look at the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are probably out of it. Marcus Smart just went down for 6 weeks, and Ja Morant is out for the season. So you look at it, the Warriors are really only competing against the Rockets and Jazz for the 10 seed. For the 10 seed. Not the 9, not any playing spot above here. Now, if they make moves, sure, they could probably surpass the Suns and Lakers. But it takes time for them to move, so they have to do these moves yesterday. You saw how bad the Clippers were after they made a big trade? Luckily, they did it at the beginning of the year. Now the Clippers look like they look like the betting favorite to come out the Western Conference, if you ask me. Because they're better than the Nuggets, depth-wise, and they're just so experienced. But I'm not going to get into it. The Clippers, I don't trust them in the playoffs, so I wouldn't pick them. But the Clippers look like the best team of late, if you ask me. And they looked terrible as soon as they made a trade. So the Warriors, what's going to happen if you make a trade? You're going to go through another rut, maybe, and then you're really just competing for the 10th seed. So is it really worth it this season to continue to hold on to something that seems broken? I don't think so. So when I tell you all the problems that I have and how I would solve them, just know that I don't think the Warriors are going to do anything this year. I think their season's over. But you know what? Let's stop being pessimistic about the Warriors. They have Steph Curry. If you have Steph Curry, you should be fine, except for in the West. If they were in the East, they'd be fine probably. But they're not. They're in the West. So let's stop being pessimistic. Let's be optimistic. And of course, as soon as I say that, the first problem I have is Steve Kerr. I would say fire Steve Kerr, but if you were to fire Steve Kerr in the middle of the season, it would take a long time for a new coach to get his things together and really for this team to react to him. And that's why I would not recommend firing Steve Kerr. I would move on from him at the end of the season because, let's be honest, he's lost his touch in the locker room. Players are unhinged. His younger players are unhappy, I should say. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, they've been good when they've got minutes, but they're not getting minutes. So there's definitely a Steve Kerr issue moving forward. So I would look to move on from him. But how do I solve the problem of Steve Kerr? I would add a coach, another coach, advisor coach, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to act like I have a perfect fit for it, because I don't. But this Warriors team definitely needs to hear a new voice and have a new coaching presence in this locker room now. And in order for that to happen, it has to be through an assistant or advisor. So that's how I'd solve their first problem, hiring a new coach or advisor. And because I don't know if I made it really clear when I said it in the video, I just want to reiterate. When I talk about coaching being a problem, there's also the chemistry problem and just how the team plays together, because that has been a big problem. This team has not played together, and I think that starts in the locker room with the coach. But to tie off that problem, this Warriors team is really missing the two-way connector because Andrew Wiggins has not shown up. And when you look at the Warriors team, they have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson as their guards. Those are 2 offensive primary players. And then at the 4 and 5, you have Kevon Looney and Draymond Green. Those are 2 defensive players. Normally, They had Andrew Wiggins, they had Harrison Barnes, they had Kevin Durant to play the three and to be a two-way player. Now, you're saying Kevin Durant's not a good defender. Kevin Durant is a good defender. He's a very good defender. He just is known for offense. But anyways, they're missing the guy that can play two ways, as well as score the ball and potentially guard the best player. Now, that ties into problem number 2.2, I would say, because problem 2, it's really I only have 2 problems, coaching and the lack of this third wing guy. But problem 2.2 is that they can't trade for anybody good in the Western Conference, because any player that could do that in the Western Conference and do what they need is on a quality team, and they won't move on from them. So when you talk about Lauri Markkanen of the Jazz potentially being a Warrior, that's not going to happen. That is terribly unrealistic. The only teams in the West that would potentially trade is the Portland Trailblazers or the San Antonio Spurs. And the only player between those two teams that realistically the Warriors could actually trade for is Jeremy Grant. And I love Jeremy Grant on this team, but I think it would cost so much, and there'd just be so much that would have to happen in order for this trade to actually work. That's why I don't have them going to the Warriors. But if the Warriors can figure out how to get Jeremy Grant, I would get him, because he fits everything you need. But as I said, it's going to be very hard for the Warriors to make a trade with a Western Conference team. So let's direct our attention to the East. I think anybody in the Eastern Conference outside of the top 8 teams are fair game. So the Chicago Bulls, Brooklyn Nets, Atlanta Hawks, Toronto Raptors, Charlotte Hornets, Washington Wizards, and Detroit Pistons. But some of these teams don't have anything you want, and that's why I'm going to cross them off the list. First team we'll cross off is the Pistons. They don't got anything you want. Next team is the Wizards. Same case there. The Hawks, I'm going to cross them off because I don't think the Hawks really have anything you want that they're willing to part ways with. I'm then going to cut off the Bulls because I don't think the Bulls have a two-way wing that you want. And then with the Raptors, the only thing with the Raptors is Pascal Siakam. If you can get Siakam, go get Siakam. But for this, I'm not going to get Siakam, so I'm going to cross the Raptors off. And that leaves us with 2 teams, the Charlotte Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets trade is first. Sadly, the Warriors have to say goodbye to Andrew Wiggins, as he and Moses Moody will both be headed to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for 3 players. Dorian Finney-Smith, Lonnie Walker, who probably still gives Warriors fans nightmares after last year's playoffs, and Harry Giles. The Nets side of it, Wiggins fits the mold of the young defensive wings, so does Moody, and they would love to have them around Bridges, but more importantly, it makes them a more attractive destination for high-value guards who can't defend. So the Nets love that for themselves. But the Warriors do this move because they move on from Wiggins' contract, they get an elite defender, and they get 2 players that I would personally find valuable, as Lonnie Walker can bring the same production as Moses Moody, and Harry Giles is an athletic 6'11 player that can be very helpful. But if they don't work out, those 2 have expiring contracts, but obviously Dorian Finney-Smith is a big piece for the Warriors that they need. And he might start, he might not, but let's get to trade number 2. And the biggest piece that the Warriors will get in both of these trades is Miles Bridges, as I don't think he will re-sign in Charlotte. But if you're the Warriors and you can extend him via the trade for about 4 years, $25 million a year, I mean, he is averaging 20.7 rebounds a night, which is the production that Prime Warriors Wiggins gave you. I really see this as the best player available, and it only costs you Jonathan Kuminga, because Jonathan Kuminga goes to the Hornets. The Hornets pair LaMelo Ball, Kuminga, and Brandon Miller together. They love that. The Warriors get Miles Bridges to go next to Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney, or whoever they want to start between their bigs. But my only concern with Miles Bridges is the off-the-court issues. But other than that, he solves every problem. And if you're saying he's a negative defender, well, guess what? Andrew Wiggins was when he came to the Warriors from the Timberwolves. So trust me on this, Miles Bridges is the biggest piece the Warriors need. And off-the-court issues aside, this could be a big move. But obviously, I don't know if it'll happen because the GMs don't think like me. And if you want to see the lineups, I'll put the starters up first, then the bench up. Let me know what your thoughts on this was. If you want me to do a different team, I will. I tried to keep it as realistic as possible with trades and asset wise, but without trying to do draft picks. I don't do draft picks and mock trades that I make. I don't like to. I don't think that's a successful way forward for teams. But I can do them in the future if you want me to. But let me know your thoughts on it. Obviously, we're not going to agree on everything. I don't expect us to. But let me know what you do different. Comment down below the team you want me to do next. And have a good one. Bye. I do a weekly recap every week. So click on the video on the screen if you want to check that out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as 92% of you that are watching these videos are not subscribed. So help a brother out. Come on. Have a good one. Bye.